So this recording is just a reminder about what measures of centre are and how we find them, and a discussion about measures of spread and which might be more appropriate in different situations. So measures of centre are measures or statistics or calculations you make that tell you about the centre of the data that we're working with. So the most common one that most people would know is the mean. Often that's also called the average, and it's just when you add all the values you've got up together and divide it by the total number that you've got. So we've got an example here. We've got 7 values, and adding those up we get the total of 35, and we divide it by the 7 that we have because we have 7 values. So that means the average value there is 5, the average value of all of those values. Even though some are 1 and we've even got a 10 there, the average of them is 5. The median is the middle value of middle value of all the values that we've got. So what you have to do first to find the median is just to put them in order, usually ascending order. This says ascending or descending, but most commonly in ascending order. And we work out what the middle value is. So if we've got an odd number of values, it's really easy. We just find the actual middle value in, and you can literally count in from each side with your fingers even if you wanted to. So for the first example we've got there, it's literally 6, which is the number in the middle when they're in order. But if you have an even number of values, which is what we have in the next example, 6 values here, you need to find the average of the 2 in the middle. Because there is no individual value on its own in the middle, you find the average of the 2 that is in the center. So in this case, you would add those together, 5 plus 9, and divide it by 2 because we're working with 2 values here. So the median in that case is 7. So notice that the median and the mean don't actually have to even be one of the values that are listed in our list of values. There's no 5 in our first lot when we found the mean, and there is no 7 in our second lot when we found the median of the even number of values. Now the mode is the most common value. It's the one that occurs the most often. There is often more than one mode, and that is perfectly fine. In this case, our mode is 1 because we've got 2 1s and only one of every other number. So multiple modes, perfectly fine, and that does happen. Now I just want to remind you about the term outlier. So outlier is just a data point that is really different to the rest of the data. It's much bigger or much smaller than the rest. You might have 1 or 2 outliers even, which look really different to the rest. The median and the mode are not as affected by outliers as the mean. The mean can be significantly affected by outliers because if you've got a whole lot of small values and one really, really big one, then it's going to mean all of those smaller values are increased and the average would be too high. So that's something to keep in mind when you're calculating these. Now, measure of spread. What is that? Well, one common one that has been done before is range, and it's just over what area, over what number of values our data can be seen between. So range is found by taking the highest value and taking the lowest value away from that. Highest number minus the lowest number. So I want to have a quick talk about which one we use in which situation. So when you're working with quantitative data, so continuous or discrete data, mean and median are really commonly used for both. But as I said before, outliers can really influence the mean. So if you've got an outlier, there's a few ways you could handle that. So you could choose to use the median as the measure of center instead. Or even in some cases, we might disregard the outlier as being a possible error. If you could justify that, you could disregard that and just work out the mean from the rest of the data. But median can be a good choice in this situation. Also, if the data is skewed, so that means if it's skewed positively or negatively, so in other words, it's not a symmetrical distribution, mean is often not the best choice either because you really got a whole lot of values down one end of the range. So median would probably be the one that you choose here as well. Now for categorical data, mode is the one that is what we would be interested in. It's the one that happens the most, which with categories, that's what we would want to know. Remember, there's more than one, And the terms to label this is if there's two modes, you've got bimodal data, and if you've got more than two modes, you've got what's called a multimodal distribution. So that's just a bit of a reminder about some terms and things like that. Hopefully that helps you with what you need to do.